So this for the assessment of this elasticity methods is that it is just a partial analysis, which is not well connected with the national economy as a whole, and it can't be seen that the change of export and imports have any effect on the whole national economy. And in reality, the economy attaches importance to the adjustment of international balance of payments because of its important role in the entire national economy, such as economic growth and employment. So it only sees the international balance of payments. So it only sees a balance of payments change, but it doesn't relate to the balance of payments change to the national income as a whole. That's the flaw. It also requires the estimation on the goods elasticity, which is not easy in the reality. It doesn't take the impact of inflation into the consideration. The absorption regulation is the next one is proposed by the J. Mida and Sidney Alexander in 1952. That has the employment as he employed as the IMF, and they use the Keynesian's macro analysis to link the BOP with the national income and examine the BOP from the perspective of macro relation. Based on the macro principle, inclined to establish the equilibrium of commodity markets and the demand management as a policy suggestion. And the model used here we include the we use this model as we mentioned before at the beginning. Y is equal to C plus I plus J, and the difference between the export and the imports. The main idea of this method is that it explains the BOP change in the view of national income and expenditure. And when the national income is greater than the total expenditure, the BOP has a surplus. Otherwise, it's a deficit. There is two ways of physical measures to adjust. First is to increase the national income, that is the Y, by spending conversion policy. The other is to reduce the total expenditure or absorption. That's the sum of the consumption, investment, and the government expenditure. Generally speaking, by changing the income and absorption to adjust the imbalance of BOP, making the total supply equal to the total demand to achieve the internal and external equilibrium at the same time. The balanced development of the economy. When discussing the actual effect of foreign currency depreciation, the absorption method holds that the devaluation of domestic currency will cause the change of production and the change of the situation of absorption. This is because the import and export changes caused by the devaluation of the total currency will cause the reallocation of the resources within a certain range. as the depreciation of local currency causes the change of term of trade. When the income remains unchanged, the international income will decline. In addition, the devaluation of the local currency may cause the emergence of inflation, that forming a certain degree of monetary illusion, which is conducive to economic adjustments. Assessment of this method is that is based on the Keynesian macroeconomic analysis that combines the status of international BOP with various factors in international economics and overcomes the limitation of the partial equilibrium. That in terms of the policy, the absorption method emphasizes the coordination of all aspects, starting from whether the resources are idle to adapt expansionary or contractionary fiscal policies, or adjusting the national income is a better way to improve the international balance of payments. But it implies the reallocation of resources or further improvement of overall production capacity. When the resources are idle, this means that economic resources are further employed to full employment, or that the production structures will be improved in reconfiguration, with some resources diverted to export or import situation. When the resources have been fully utilized, the main method to reduce the assumption of A is to tighten the expenditure and implement the contractionary fiscal policies. This is an import component in the total absorption, and the import can be reduced by reducing the absorption of A. In addition, the reduction of idle resources after absorbing A must be put into the export for import substitution sectors to improve the international balance of payments. And the national income are restricted by the total amount of resources, and the difficulty of resource reallocation redeployments. If the resources are close to full employment, there is no way to increase income in the short term. In practice, the increase of income depends on improvement of productivity, which is likely to result in a contradiction between the improvement of productivity and the demand for resources and the import of the machinery. As a result of the import of machinery or raw materials and the intermediate products, the adjustment of international balance of payment will be difficult. And there is a time lag problem in reducing the absorptions or increasing the national income. This because the reallocation of the resource, namely the flow of resources to export sectors and import substitution sectors, doesn't happen over time, and it's difficult to achieve immediately. The absorptions method focuses on the equilibrium of the commodity markets and completely ignores the role of the currency in adjusting the international BOP. If the demand for the currency is far greater than the supply, it's difficult to adjust the deficit. In addition, in absorption methods, the content of capital account is not taken into consideration. So the monetary regulation on this